There we
Oh,
go.
that's a good sign.
We got a nice disclosure on the recording. Okay, we've got a quorum, so we're gonna get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this hour of the Capital Program Committee.
You see that, yeah.
Thursday, October 26th, a little bit after 1 p.m. Present, Christy Kickham.
Yeah.
Peter Kaiser. Howard Matz. And myself, Stephen Welch. Other people show up, I'll announce them as they come in. This meeting is being audio-video recorded. Please don't say or share anything you don't want displayed or shared. Can you get a motion to approve the agenda? Peter, on your motion.
Aye.
Howard,
Second.
Christie,
Aye.
and I'm an aye, carries unanimously. Actually, we don't need to do roll call. We don't have anyone on the Zoom, but we're not doing any more votes. Public comment, no members of the public to comment. So unless one of y'all wants to be a public member and comment. We're here today to do the review capital requests and out year discussion, DPW general, AKA Public Works. And before we start, I did want to make a comment. I'll try and remember to do this at each meeting earlier on in the process. Please be sure to be recognized by the chair. We have a new minutes taker and they work remotely. And so I can say your name, and then till that person becomes accustomed to the hundreds of voices that our minutes require, that will facilitate things. Let's see, from DPW General, you guys are very small on my screen, so why don't I pass over to you and you tell me who's present for the minutes taker?
You got,
Can't hear you.
you got Charlie Palaki.
Can you hear us now?
Yep.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, so Drew Padno's here, Director of Public Works.
Drew?
Deputy Director of Facilities, Public Works.
Charlie Palaki, the manager of Parks and Recreation.
Hey, Charlie. And I'm sorry, who, I didn't catch the second name. Paul. Okay. Oh, yeah, Paul, I met you out there. Okay, great. Welcome, guys. Thanks for being with us today. Let's see. Well, why don't we just jump right into it? We got the current year requests, 3 of them. Why don't you start and we'll ask questions if we have any as we go. Whomever.
You said we only have three of them? Oh, 3 of us.
No, we have, well, so we're doing DPW General, also known as Public Works.
Okay, so no fleet or facilities or parks today?
Yeah, no, we when we originally set up the agenda, I anticipated we had more of the Public Works, DPW General. And then I believe our next grouping is going to be Central Fleet, Facilities, and Parks. So we'll have unfortunately, we're going to have a big chunk to bite on that one. I'll take a look at the schedule and see how we can set that up. But for today, we're only noticed for DPW General.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't aware of a date specifically set aside on the Capcom schedule for facilities, Central Fleet, and Parks and Rec.
Oh, we'll have to get you you don't have a copy of our schedule. That's interesting. Okay, well, I'll work on that. Sue's away and we'll get you up to speed on it.
I'm gonna look while we're talking.
Yeah, should be next, right?
The next one is, DPW solid waste and any other DPW.
Yeah.
It says. Then, that must be it. That must be it. Yeah.
Unless when Sue put together the agenda, the concept was DPW General being
Everything.
general, yeah, everything on the sheet, which is to say not solid waste, which is a enterprise and specific through DPW.
Well, here's what it looks like.
Yeah, let me take a look at it before I want to get through what we can but have it be all on the up and up. Well, DPW transportation is, we did it the last meeting, that's primarily with Plus. DPW General.
I mean,
Let's break it down as DPW General would be the items on our spreadsheet. which includes central fleet, facilities, parks, and public works.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. So our agenda just got a little fuller. Why don't we start with central fleet, guys?
Also, if it's an additional member.
Yeah, we want to note there.
Somebody else? Oh, can we get an introduction on the newest member of the group? I can't zoom in to see you guys.
Richard Moore.
Hey, Richie.
Hello.
Welcome. Okay. All right, you guys, back to you, DPW Central Fleet.
If you want, I mean, I can try to speak to the mechanics truck replacement.
I mean, one of the ways, guys, I'm sorry, I apologize. One of the ways we could do this is we've previewed the information. If we have a particular question, we could just ask them line item by line item as a group. And that would facilitate getting through that first group of 8 or 10. And then kind of go from there. Has anyone got a concern with that approach or? Okay.
Good.
So guys, just hang on a second. We're gonna just kind of recalibrate for a moment and see if any of us have a particular question on the fleet items. If we do, we'll ask the questions and then we can move on to the next category.
Great.
We have a question.
Okay, so which, well,
Parks and Rec.
on which one?
Right, Central Fleet, Parks and Rec.
The dump truck or the pickup?
Both.
Yeah, okay, so 1, 2. And anybody see anything else there?
I mean, I was just going to make sure, so 4 of these are replacements and 4 of them are additions to the fleet, so to speak.
Yeah, that was my understanding. So we'll ask that question too. Yeah.
I'm assuming they're all labeled, purposely like that.
Yeah, okay, great. So guys, we've got a general question on items, some are labeled replacement, some are labeled new. So we presume that replacement is existing stock that'll be taken out of inventory and new is new vehicle outright.
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then we do have at this point questions on 3 of the requests. Christie on the park and recs vehicles, and I think myself on the utility body truck replacement. So Christie, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Hey, Charlie, quick question. I just was curious if you could give us considering the department has re-upped fairly new, just a snapshot of what the demands are for, these vehicles. Is it Parks and Rec staff? Will it be DPW staff? Will these trucks be used for maybe general DPW stuff in the winter, like plowing or anything like that? Just being newly assigned vehicles. Just wanted to see if we could get just a snapshot of how your department looks in the way of having vehicles.
Sure, yeah, currently the department doesn't have any vehicles. So this is the first 2 requests. We look to build out the department and bring in, Parks and Rec employees. Both vehicles will be equipped with snow plows and sanders to partake in snow and ice in the winter and the off season. And as we, the main focus, we'll say 9 months out of the year will be on the parks and those facilities. And then as we get into the off season, we will be assisting, the Parks and Rec department will be assisting DPW and other manners of servicing the town, split rail replacement, brush cutting, and things like that.
Follow up? Yeah, good, please, Christie.
And you have, what's your staffing look like? And I'm guessing that just your staff will be using these vehicles or general?
It would be a combination. They'll be focused on Parks and Rec. They'll be similar vehicles to what we have within the DPW.
As far as staffing goes, we've been talking a lot internally. This is Drew Patton, by the way. We've been talking internally about the best way to develop the staffing. So there was only one position budgeted for Parks and Rec, but inevitably most of the day-to-day operations of the parks and recreation facilities are required 2- and 3-person jobs. So as we're continuing to grow, operations is taking care of most of the Parks and Rec stuff. And we have outside, contractors, under contract to do stuff. Our goal is in the next, number of months, hopefully sooner rather than later, we grow to the point where we can kind of divide off from operations a crew to explicitly handle the Parks and Rec stuff. But right now, operations is taking care of it. We can't sacrifice all a big enough chunk, 3 or 4 guys from operations to solely be dedicated to Parks and Rec. But that's our goal over the next, number of months as we finish out this fiscal year, which would also allow us to not have to rely on outside contractors nearly as much going forward.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So I actually kind of think my question on the facilities utility body truck replacements, self-answered. On the DPW mechanics truck replacement, that one's tagged as a medium. So I wanted to make sure that was you guys. And, if we get to the point where we're weighing pros and cons of vehicles, is that really second tier?
I think so. My understanding is this has been a request for a couple of years now. I think maybe the only reason it's a second tier, if you will, or designated as a medium priority, is they obviously I think they need to replace the vehicle that's out at Central Fleet now. The additional hope would be that it is slightly different and more capable than what they currently have for responding to other town vehicles that have mechanical issues out on the road. So almost similar to a roadside support vehicle, which is just a little more capable than what they have now. But what they have currently is aging and limits their ability to do things outside of the DPW Central Fleet Garage.
Okay, thank you. The next question I have is with the number of vehicles, and again, the concept being if we've got to get down into nitty-gritty. I don't anticipate you guys to do this at the moment, but can you get back to us with a list of, if you had to pick, these in order of priority, 1 through 2, 4, 6, 7 other vehicles? I might as well throw the mechanics truck in there. So prioritize them 1 through 8 with just supplemental information through Sue. So that if we get to a position where, we can fund 4 of these or 5 of these, we have an idea of what you guys are looking for as opposed to having to come back to you. I don't anticipate necessarily that's the case. I'm just trying to be forward looking and time management, and we got y'all here, so it avoids any confusion in what the request is. DP, any questions on that?
Oh.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry, I thought I heard someone. DPW facilities, we got 2 requests. Drew, you're gonna get on those, or whomever?
Yeah, Paul and I will both speak to them. I can start with the DPW facility design. So there was, I think, 2 annual town meetings ago, money appropriated for a feasibility study and preliminary design and layout of the DPW facility upgrades. That included looking at not only the 188 Mattica Road site, but other potential options here on island for relocation and building a new facility. So this $1.2 million ask would be for final design. The original appropriation, I think, was $3 million. There's approximately 1.8 million left in that appropriation, and this 1.9 would be supplemental to cover the rest of the cost for the designer and OPM services through bidding, which we expect to be completed next fall.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments? Okay. Streetlight audit?
Yep.
I'm sorry.
So
Oh, I'm sorry, guys, hold on 1 sec.
So in the project summary, Drew, there's a additional request in 2025 for 15 million. So how is that the actual construction cost and you're thinking that the total planning and design is 3 million?
If it was 15 million, is that what you said, Howard?
Yeah, that's what it says in the rule.
That was a placeholder at one point, prior to, a refined layout, and scope of the construction for the facility. You'll notice on the Excel spreadsheet, that was attached to the agenda, that number is, tentatively as high as 60 million, which is what we have in now as a placeholder. So I think that original number of 15 goes back many years. And is a far cry from the actual construction cost that we would see today. That 1.2 million would just be for design and OPM services.
Go ahead, Howard.
We need to have this amended then?
Yeah, I was gonna do some cleanup on that, yeah. You guys, I guess, just while we're on it, the Sun Island location, where are we with respect to firmness of that? I understood that there was a co-location process. I'd kind of like to get a better idea of where that, if that's true, and if so, where.
Sure, Steve, we're actually, there's a article at special town meeting to add in the Shadbush location. For that, I think we've moved on from Sun Island. There's a lot of some pushback from the airport and some question about ongoing rent and stuff like that. And so I think we're actually looking now over the site off Shadbush. And so there's an article at special town meeting. Like at annual town meeting, we did an article to add in Sun Island Road to the verbiage of the old article appropriating the funds. We're now adding Shadbush into that. So we can use those for to move forward with the project.
Okay, and then that's gonna be on town land with some type of a town enterprise,
Yes.
the co-location, okay. Great, I just wanted to make sure I understood what was going on there. Any other questions on that in addition to, or separate from needing to have the summary updated?
I have one other
Yep.
question because I'm a little confused, but
Howard?
so I'm looking at the proposed drawings and it looks like there's lots of things in it, including the Delta fields and other things. Is that all included in the $60 million? So the question is, what is the scope of the 60 million that you're ultimately thinking is going to cost?
Well, originally the original appropriation was to look at 188 Natticut Road, and like Charlie said, it was then expanded to look at the feasibility of 10 Sun Island Road. On November 7th, there's language included to allow that money to be spent at looking into permitting and ultimately designing a DPW facility at Shadbush Road. So the schematic drawings that may have been attached previously are for 10 Sun Island, but that $60 million would be essentially enough, in theory, enough money to do it anywhere, but the site plan would certainly have changed because it's a different location now at Shadbush.
Yeah, none of the changes to the Delta field and that stuff was included in the. That's would be a separate project, but that's all. So yeah, with the DPW relocating, that 60 million would just be DPW facility.
Oh, so Charlie, it's on the drawing just because it could be there, but it's not part of this discussion.
Yeah, when they were doing the conceptual stuff, it made sense at that time when we were looking at the potential expansion, the expansion of the Delta field as a future Parks and Rec project. And as we were looking there, when we were looking with the design team, is there a way where we could combine certain elements? You know, to have a savings for the town. For instance, we were looking at a road in off a Milestone Road for the DPW and the park. Could that be done at once? You know, to save the town money instead of trying to piecemeal certain things, which is why that diagram, I believe, shows both projects kind of overlaid.
Howard?
How are you guys, what's the process for selecting the preferred location?
Well, again, that original appropriation was for a feasibility study, so they've looked into all three locations, not only from a cost standpoint, but strategically for future sea level rise operations, efficient operations of the town and our department. So a lot's gone into selecting that location.
Yeah, there was a site study done by Weston and Sampson that looked at both the current facility and making it, closer resiliency proof and raising grade and everything like that. Looked at Sun Island Road and Shadbush, and then they graded the three, with Sun Island Road grading the highest, Shadbush in second, and existing location is third. So that's where originally in the spring we looked to add the Sun Island Road to the appropriation of funds, so we could explore that. And then we kind of ran into some questions with the airport about what they might have to charge the town for rent on that facility, because it's controlled by the FAA. There's a lot of stuff that apparently is out of their hands. So it ends up being that the most advantageous facility for the DPW would be on Shadbush Road.
Thanks.
Okay. Christie?
Yeah, it's just a comment more, has there been given, and I know we'll discuss this later, but has there been given any thought about, if there's any possibility to not have everything on one facility? And maybe you could have two facilities where you have the landfill and its operations, and then the DPW operation side, maybe, two separate locations. Strictly a comment, we don't have to discuss it. I just was curious to know if that's something that ever came up as a feasibility.
Well, the landfill and its operations would stay out of Matticat.
Got it, okay,
So the landfill actually sits higher than what the DPW does,
yep,
believe it or not. And so this would be the relocation of the DPW, all the day-to-day operations, central fleet, to a more centralized location, for this.
got it, okay, good.
Thanks, guys. Hey, anyone else? Peter?
Yeah. Just looking over the updated presentation, so for the Shadbush site, and it just caught my eye, so that's the location where there's been ongoing talks about the Nantucket Hunting Association, setting up a firing range and all that, so would this would presume that that's no longer like a feasible way forward if Shadbush becomes a potential site?
It would actually be a shared location, is what we're looking at, splitting the site to be able to accommodate the hunting association, as well as the DPW.
Got it. Okay, simple answer.
It'd be a hard fence divide, between the two, so you wouldn't be able to just stroll from one to the other.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I just know that that's been a big topic in, select board months come up in the lease and all that, and ongoing topic of conversation. So thanks for the insight.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Drew, you guys had back in 2017, I believe, when this first came to us, there was a kind of a breakdown on the facilities, their uses. I think it even went so far as to provide a summary of costs for each. I think it would be beneficial for us to have, that information, generally updated, not obviously with a $60 million approximation. It's not going to be to the penny. But I think it'd be helpful if you guys could pull that forward. If there's general modifications, if the whole thing's been overhauled, maybe touch base with me through Sue and we can try and strategize how to get some documentation together. But I think for the record, we're a cross-sectional representation of town meeting and FinCom members and so on and so forth. So I think it would be beneficial for everyone if we had that information, and when we're asked about a $6 million project, we can, kind of articulate some thoughts. I realize it's not something you're going to do today, and I don't know where it fits into your workflow, but if you would run that through, our requests are through finance department and town manager, but I think it would be appropriate. So if you guys wouldn't mind sending that up a flagpole, I'd be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of that information probably already do have pulled together. And obviously there's been plenty of reports and studies done since probably the last time it was discussed in depth. So we can certainly provide that for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions on this one before we go to streetlight audits? So when do we hit streetlight audit?
Okay. Paul Gerard from Facilities, so I'll be discussing this. This is part of the Select Board's strategic plan, which includes the Green Communities Initiative, where they look at things like streetlights that could possibly be made more energy efficient. This is also part of the dark skies warrant article that was approved at the town meeting last year. And what this will do is that this will be a detailed study of all of the streetlights across the island, including the decorative streetlights downtown and the overhead Cobra lights. There's over 1,500 of those Cobra lights and 200 of the decorative streetlights.
Anything else you want to add to that, Paul?
Nope.
Great. Jill has a question.
This is a general question for anyone who wants to answer. Did the governor sign the streetlight law or the dark skies law into?
Attorney General.
Did the Attorney General approve that?
I'm not familiar with that answer.
I'm not sure.
I would presume at this point, it has been signed because it's typically, I think, a 90-day, maybe it's 120, it's 90, isn't
Somewhere in
it?
that range.
Yeah. So I would think that it's not as potentially salacious as
The fertilizer ban?
the topless one, so we probably didn't make it to the newspaper, but I think it passed. My understanding is it passed.
Okay, I'm gonna ask it.
Yeah, I presume it did if you guys are moving forward with it. Town manager's not gonna let that one, you guys spin your wheels on it.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that one? No? Guys, I think what I'd like to see on that is, just a breakdown, just a little bit of additional information in the introduction. Number of streetlights, basically, Paul, what your intro was. It'd be helpful. We're gonna have this information within the project summary will be in our report and recommendations. And it's bound to be a question, how many streetlights are involved and things along those lines. So that'd be helpful.
Stephen?
Yeah.
When you get a chance, I got a question.
Yeah, Christie?
Just from Stephen's question, I'd like to see if you guys could just, or Paul, if you could maybe just do a little forecast on what the investment might be, depending on what the audit is. If this is a phased project, what those out years numbers might look like, if that's possible, even if they're placeholders.
Off the top of my head, I wouldn't be able to produce numbers like that, but it's all the more reason why this audit is so important, is because it's setting us up for our fiscal future.
Yeah, and I think, Paul, fair, I know you mentioned, but fair to categorize, to include that concept in the project summary.
Okay.
Like, to underscore that's what this is about, is getting a handle on these costs to help determine whether it's something that can be we can bite off in a year, 2 years, 3 years, and so on and so forth. Any other questions? Okay, good. Howard?
In the, Rory, the project summary is essentially blank, so.
That's what, I'm trying to get Phil in on.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on the same page. And then we'll be on the same page with more information. Okay, guys, let's jump down to DPW Parks, Tom Nevers, debris removal and dune restoration, I think is our first one.
Sure. Are there any specific questions on that, or just like general?
I think if you guys don't mind doing an intro on it for the folks at home, some of these, we've got supplemental information and background on a bunch of these, but we do have some people who listen. I think it'd probably be good just to do a walkthrough of it.
Yeah.
So this project, I believe, was also part of the select board's strategic, master plan for them. It's certainly part of the Parks and Rec master plan. It has to do with removing a lot of the debris and concrete structures that were left in Tom Nevers, and that, as the island, if the coast kind of erodes, these things start to poke their heads up. There are a number of, structures down on the beach, and, pipes and old abandoned items that are close to the shoreline that we're looking to go in and remove. And then as we remove those, it will kind of create soft spots along the coastal bank, which is what the dune restoration project would be for, to protect that dune from further erosion.
All right. Questions, comments? All right, just Christie and then Peter.
just for the notes, in the project summary, in the introduction on the Rory, it's just, I think it needs a comma there. There's just a 200, this the number there needs fixing.
What's that?
Yeah, it's 2,000 thousands. It's, so just a typo. Guys, what we're looking at is where the information is input into the, capital program database. The FI request number under the type in versus something that's programmatically created indicates it's 2,000 thousands. So it's just a silly little thing, but
Just need one
for
comment.
minutes.
yeah, just for,
Did have a question for Charlie.
I'm sorry, Christie and then Peter.
Charlie, is any of this removal of debris, is it any of it from private or is it all from public?
No, the debris, it's all kind of from the formal naval base. So it's the structures that were there from when the naval base was, a lot of it's like underground cisterns, and old tanks and stuff.
Yep. Okay.
There's some, right now you can't see much on the beach because the beach is actually built up. But earlier this summer, there was, if you kind of went down to the beach front and looked west, there was a big concrete structure that's sitting down in the sand, and we'd like to get that sort of stuff out of there.
Got it.
And prevent further things from falling down, from the bluff to the beach.
Thanks.
Peter?
Yeah, thank you, Stephen and Charlie. I guess this might be a few, just in general. So Parks and Rec, I mean, do you guys typically take on, dune maintenance and restoration? And it might be a dumb question, but, do you have a lot of projects like this or foresee them going forward?
This is kind of the first one. This kind of landed just in my lap because it's a parks property. But I've been working on this with Vince Murphy from Natural Resources. He's been a big part of this team with me working on this project.
I'm just thinking with additional, with erosion issues and other houses and infrastructure, septic tanks, stuff like that around the island that might start to get exposed. I mean, is this going to be a responsibility that falls in your department's lap kind of going forward in perpetuity?
I'm not sure. I think the thought was to take on the responsibility here because it's a town property. There is, stuff there. I think hopefully as houses get removed, as they're in danger, that privately those people would remove all their structures as they retreat.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, because that's an interesting responsibility to put in a park and rec's lap. But anyways, thanks.
Howard? So, hey, Charlie, as I'm looking at the priorities that you have in the summary sheet, the Tom Nevers is high and all the rest of the first four are medium. And I was just curious to appreciate why on a relative basis, it's more important at Tom Nevers to do this than it is at the other locations.
I think it was selected as a high location just because we really want to get the stuff off the beach to make that more accessible to people. There is a hazard there with some of the items that are on the beach, and continued erosion and more things continue to come out of the bluff.
So what?
Absolutely.
So it's not necessary, really. It's just something that we would really like to do.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
It's something that we're at it's been partially funded, I believe. So we're we're in the design process and actually in the permitting phase at the moment.
It's partially funded?
I believe, yeah. So we're in permitting phase. So this would be more for the actual removal of the debris and then the dune restoration part of the project. I
So
apologize.
partial funding is the planning permitting.
What's that?
The partial funding was just for planning permitting?
Yes.
And how much was that? You remember?
I'm not sure. One quick sec.
I think it might have come out of general. Charlie, while you're thinking that through, do you recall whether that funding came out of general fund? Because it was a low dollar number, or?
I believe so. It looks like I'm just looking at the spreadsheet that I was working off. Look like the original appropriation was 42,000.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that was to get us through permitting, and then which is where we're at now.
Anyone else?
Well, I'm having trouble
No,
getting my arms around high, even though maybe
Yeah.
it's high because there's already been some work that's been done on it as a lead up.
Yeah, I get you on that point. Well taken. Guys, can you address that from your framework, how this fits into high?
Sure. I think the high is something that actually inherited last year, as it was a project that was kind of entered in. So we'll evaluate it internally, make an adjustment if we need to.
Does this also need to get done?
I think Jill and then Barry, if you're okay. Jill?
Charlie, can you address what's going on? Can you tell us what's going on with the bunker?
At the moment, nothing.
Okay,
It's locked up and secured. I've heard rumors that it was placed on a national historic list. Somebody contacted me and said that. I haven't heard anything or had, no information's come our way. It's.
I guess isn't this adjacent to the bunker, or maybe I need a map? I'm sorry.
It's now the bunker is significantly. It's far enough away from this. The bunker is at the beyond 2050 erosion line.
Oh, okay.
So
So
the coastal residency plan on it kind of has these different lines where they expect 2030, 2050, and 2075 the erosion to be, and that the bunker is far enough back that it's out past the 2050 potential line. But hopefully if we do this restoration, in this dune protection, we'll gain time there.
Okay, so we don't think there would be any kind of clash if something happened with the bunker on some sort of preservation level?
I don't think so. I don't anticipate anything. The bunker is, I'm gonna tell you right now.
Because remember the article in the Smithsonian Magazine? I'm gonna share it with the Capcom members.
Oh yeah, I talked to the Smithsonian plus some people in London.
It's really good.
So
Well
that 500 feet from the coast.
Okay.
Okay. Barry? Very good. So guys, I think one of the points that's generally been made is it'd be helpful if we, in the supplemental, we got a site plan. It doesn't have to be fancy, but maybe one step up from the locus, but it could be from the locus plan, the town's GIS map, maybe some artistic Adobe PDF lines added to it, just to kind of put in there, and it's a significant enough dollar number. And then the other item I think would be beneficial is to break out, make a comment, please, in the project summary that the preliminary soft cost of approximately 42,000 were appropriated and the source previously. And I guess if there's, the breakdown on the scope is you're gonna bring equipment in there to take it out. So I don't really see any utility in having additional information on that. And the last comment, or I guess question, is of the 2 million, where is this shovel ready? Are you guys ready? You get the money FY25 to get started and complete it?
I think so. As long, like I said, we're in the permitting phase now, and that's kind of where that kind of ends the current contract. So we're in the process of redoing the contract with Western Sampson to move forward, and then once we get through permitting, we'll be ready to develop a scope and put that out to bid. So yeah, as soon as money's available, we would be ready to go, I believe.
Okay.
Is that what
Howard?
the outsourcing alternative applicable means in the source of quote or estimate, that it means that you're intending to outsource it?
Yeah, something of this size we would outsource.
And then, okay, follow up, Christie?
Charlie, the part that says debris removal, is there any part of this project or any part of this debris that you guys it would be hazardous to the public?
I don't believe so. It's mostly concrete structures.
Okay.
I don't think they found anything to be hazardous.
I'm not talking about hazmat. I'm just talking about being a hazard, whether there's metal in the ground on the beach or stuff like that.
Concrete in the surf zone.
No, that's the sort of stuff that we'll be removing, be concrete structures, rebar, pipe. There will be, the area's been surveyed pretty heavily for ordnance also. But I believe as part of the conversation we had, there will be people out here from Army Corps when this all happens, just in case they come across any old ordnance.
Yeah, I'm trying to give you an answer for the high priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really give you your answer.
It'd be really nice to do it. I don't see the priority, but it's really
Yeah.
awful and it is dangerous to
I
people
know.
on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, guys. We'll go ahead and move on to the reconstruction of Jetty's tennis courts.
Sure. So this is again part of the Parks and Rec master plan, which is a subset of the strategic, plan for the island. The courts are 30 years old, and we're at a time to replace them. I've had people look at them about resurfacing, and they're just at the point where they're so old, we need to do a total reconstruction. That cost includes, reconstruction benches, nets, and new fencing around the area.
In the playing surface.
What's that?
In the playing surface.
Yeah, playing surface. It would be looking to do an installation similar to what the high school just did with a post-tension concrete court system, and we'll probably change the layout a little bit. We currently have 6 tennis courts there now. We probably look to bring back in the neighborhood of 4 tennis courts, and then I believe we can fit 4 pickleball courts where the other 2 tennis courts were, because the pickleball is such a popular thing, and we currently don't have any town-owned courts, so that would be the plan there.
All right, thanks. Peter?
Yeah, Charlie, I've driven by there a couple times and always, think of wanting to go play, and I don't play a lot, and I'm by no means a good tennis player, but the biggest issue for me about thinking about playing there now is, it seems like the court's always littered with shells and other debris that's dropped there by birds. And so is there any way to mitigate that aspect of it, or is that just ongoing, something you have to live with, and anyone going to play, whether they're beaten down and old or brand new, is gonna have to deal with, shells, debris, stuff that you have to clean up before you have a chance to even get on and use the courts?
Yeah, it's kind of an ongoing problem. We were hoping in the past, the courts are being run by Lisa, I can't remember her last name, and she used to kind of clear the courts. She was running the whole courts. It was a pay-to-play system, and she would kind of maintain them, blow the shells off daily. We haven't actually. The shells are clearing of the shells is supposed to be worked in. It's worked into the landscape contract for the area where they're supposed to, clear at least once a week. Then we've got brooms and things down there to clear the area. And again, hopefully, as we build out the Parks and Rec with staff, that will be part of the morning, duties. Swing by the court, clear the shells, from the previous day. But it's kind of an ongoing problem, just due to the nature of the area.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I just would hate to see a $2 million rehabilitation go into it, and then, really nice courts that are also difficult to kind of just show up and play on, and are kind of also at injury risk to some extent. So I don't more just comment than anything material, but
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Christie?
For us.
Charlie, do you guys still see a demand for these courts? I mean, I know people probably may have stopped playing for the reasons, maybe what Peter said and the condition of them. But do you guys still hear of a demand for people wanting to use these?
Oh, absolutely. I've got, in the summer, especially early morning and in the evening, outside of the peak heat of the day, all 6 courts are packed. Jerry Murray Camp uses them a few times a week for their programming during the summer. I've still got people out. We've got 2 nets still set up now. There's a pickle group that uses the tennis court to play pickle down there morning and night. And then the tennis court, about every day this week, there's been a couple down. I don't know if they're local or not, but they've been playing on court number 1. The court's got a lot of use. A lot of people have been enjoying that. They've been free to play on a first come first serve basis. So we course, see a lot of use down there. So I think it's really be very beneficial.
Will
Go ahead.
will you guys utilize some sort of online scheduling, or when you say first come, first, like, people gonna just drive down and find a court, or will there be some structure to it?
So right now, with the condition, with the way the court's conditioned, we don't have somebody to staff it. We just have, kind of house rules that are posted on the court, first come, first served basis. We ask that, if there are people waiting, you limit your play time to about an hour. As we move forward, the hope is to have somebody, maybe come in and run the courts for us, to have, full-time staff there, teachers, to do lessons when are needed, and actually to monitor the court, from open to close every day. And then there will be a more formal reservation process probably put in place at that point.
Sounds good, thank you.
Jill?
I'm looking at the details from Classic Turf.
Yep.
Which looks good. I mean, I really like the post-tension concrete. So one question though is, I see the fence, but what about windscreens?
So the windscreens, we own the windscreens already. We haven't put them up because we've actually, the structural way the fence is now, we're worried it might not be able to take the winds. So that's why we're looking to put up a new fence. And so with the new fence, the windscreens would go up seasonally as they used to in the past.
Okay, because it's gonna be all pipe as well. Is that what I'm understanding when I look at this? So you're not gonna have like cedar posts and then the fence?
No, it'll all be metal pipe construction, as similar to there now, but I believe we were talking about black vinyl.
Yeah, I think the windscreens are really important. So if that's like not reflected in the price, especially down there.
There's something we already own. And I know they're vital for pickleball, because down there the winds will make that tough to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's key. So that's something worth investing in.
So we said we have them already?
He said we already have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we have windscreens.
Yeah, but are they gonna go with this new?
Yeah, like, because there's gonna be, if I may, Jill, it seems to me there's gonna be a breakdown of the area into smaller components for the pickle.
No, I don't think he's doing that.
Oh, he's doing it as shared court, just a different.
I think you're just sharing it. You're just turning the pickle courts
Taking 2 tennis courts out.
horizontally to the.
Yeah, what were 2 tennis courts will become 4 pickleball courts with a low divide. They won't be hard cordoned off, and the windscreens we have currently, the windscreens are just a generic size that we would order. So anything that are in disrepair would just come out of normal budget, and they would hang perfectly fine on the new fencing.
So, on that topic, I think, because I understood this a little bit differently, my own error. I think in the description, it would be helpful to include, because it indicates reconstruction of the Jetty's tennis courts and
It
surrounding
does.
fence.
You're right.
I think we need a breakdown that this includes pickleballs, and if courts are gonna be repurposed as opposed to dual use, we should we being the royal we being you guys, should identify how many courts are being converted over to pickle. I don't have a concern about it in particular. I just think with respect to the information, we want to put it out there because it's gonna be relevant to people who are looking at this. Other than that, Howard?
Not for nothing, but how come you just don't paint pickleball lines on the tennis court and allow it to be used for both?
Size nets.
You want
Yeah.
to answer that?
Yeah.
The nets are different,
That's what I was gonna.
so you have to change the nets out. And also it is confusing on the lines. People do it and they chalk it out and all that, but pickleball is so popular, much more popular than tennis, let's be honest. And there's an incredible statistic about this, Charlie. I think we talked about this, that I think 50 million people play pickleball now. Only 20 million people play tennis. So moving to pickleball, I would encourage them to do more. I think that's what people want to do, is more family and kind of, people who are just here for a week, it's a little more friendly.
It's a little easier on the joints too.
It is.
Charlie, you guys, just for our own information, what is gonna be the breakdown here? How many courts exist? how many will exist, tennis courts exist? How many will not exist when this is completed, but have been converted to how many pickleball courts?
Sure, I can enter that information in.
Sounds
So,
good.
so we're looking for an hour, or do you want me to enter it into the system?
Yeah, no, if you could just tell us,
Yeah, so currently there are 6 courts. And so we would take two of the courts on one end and convert them into, I believe it's 4 pickleball courts.
okay. And then, given the layout, is it, I think, I appreciate the fact that in the supplemental docs, you've got a really good scope of work. It'd be beneficial to have some type of a diagram of the site to indicate what is gonna go where, or what's proposed to go where. And then the other aspect of that is, I think with respect to the windscreens, if there could be some partition. You know, I'm trying to just recall, I don't play tennis, and I haven't been down there except for to drop, when I used to drop scallop shells, which I dump out at the DPW at the second landfill gate now. It'd just be beneficial to understand the layout, and if there is a place to partition with windscreen the pickleball from the tennis court. We don't want those people down there rumbling, number one, and number two, it might be beneficial to have something like that along Jill's point. So I just put that out there to reiterate, and hopefully we can get some additional information. Jill?
My last question, Charlie, opposite of Howard, is why isn't this a high priority? And by reading, I see medium. And I'm saying that because we're trying to, get more access. I know it's the first year you're putting it in, I think. And I'm so pleased. I mean, this is wonderful because it looks bad down there. We look like we hate ourselves, I feel like, but that drives me crazy. But, I think this is really exciting and it's gonna get more people down there. We already have a nice playground there for kids and of course restaurant and, we want you to look good, Charlie.
Parking?
So Charlie, medium priority thing? But we lost sound with you guys.
No, I don't think they're talking.
Oh, Charlie, I'm sorry, could you expound on the medium versus high?
Yeah, I just, going into this and was, really setting this thing up, I haven't had a lot of instruction on the high versus medium stuff, so I didn't wanna, if I had my choice, I'd put all the Parks and Rec stuff as high priority.
I know.
Trying to be realistic, with these things.
I get that.
Yeah.
To me, high is like
Imminent
something.
danger.
No,
Yeah,
usually to the
imminent
pipeline
danger.
longer.
Yeah.
But I do think that with this, sorry, I did this.
No, it's fine. It's for the minute lady, our new minute person. We got a memo, you missed this part. We got a memo from town admin asking, please have people be introduced for the minutes.
Oh, right.
Because it's a remote minute taker and she doesn't know all of our voices yet,
Gotcha.
all of our hundreds of voices. So, in any event, that was Jill and she has a follow-up.
Well, I think going back to what Steven said, I would just recommend in here that you do mention the pickle. If you want this to go to town meeting and you want people to get excited about it, I think it's really important to put that in there. And this just really talks more about the tennis from Classic Turf, because I know they're just talking more about the construction and not it just says new metal sleeves for tennis and pickleball net posts, but I would just encourage you to beef up the pickleball aspect to it. Just
I can reach out to, when I reached out to them originally, it was just to help me develop a scope of work for this so we could get a general cost estimate to put in for capital. We haven't sat down to say, exactly what this court will be, because at the end of the day, whether it's pickle or tennis, comes down to the paint on the concrete, really.
yep.
And how they kind of install some of the poles. So I can reach out to them and see if we can get like a diagram of, whether it be, 4 tennis courts and 4 pickleball courts, or 3 tennis courts and 6 pickleball courts. Just there are some options that we can, as we get closer.
Okay, and I have one more question.
Joe.
Sorry, guys.
No, it's all right.
This is the topic I like from anything. Down there, Charlie, is there any I actually can't remember either if there's a little more land next to it, isn't there? Doesn't that, I don't know if that's wetlands or what, but I feel like that property is kind of sitting in the middle of, like, there's the parking lot and then the restaurant. And then the courts, and then from facing the parking lot and the courts to the left, isn't there a little bit more land?
I think we would run into some coastal
Okay.
issues down there if we were trying to expand beyond the current footprint.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking more racket sports. I just didn't know if there's a spot for some other kind of recreation there. If it was,
Just a nice sitting area
yeah, or
or waiting,
I don't know,
or waiting
badminton,
area.
or, you know, I don't know, but you
Yeah.
can do some of that on the beach, I guess, but, or basketball court or something, but I just didn't know if there's a little space to think about what was
Yeah.
around it, rather than piecemealing it.
Do it all at once.
Charlie, any other questions, comments? Charlie, I think this is a large enough dollar expenditure that it would really be beneficial. I don't think it needs to be like a big, long project, but to get some backstop information as to the ratio of tennis to new pickleball. As you know, I'm not suggesting you guys are throwing a dart at the wall and saying we're gonna do this or that, but I think it'd be helpful to be able to articulate. You know, we've looked at some national information, you know, Jill mentioned a study that just came out, or some information that just came out that would kind of help drive the decision-making for you all and your proposal of the number of pickleball to tennis courts. I mean, you might review that information and see, geez, we all want all pickleball, or you might say, hey, you know, we get a lot of use of tennis and we want to retain one. I don't really know, but I think it would be beneficial if we had a sense that determination of the number, the ratio is derived from, you know, something along those lines.
Yeah, I can come on.
Okay, yeah, I mean, not that you need anything else to do. I mean, I get that.
Yeah, I think originally, the original thought was if you take away two, when I originally was looking at it in my head, I said, okay, if I take away 2 tennis courts, I get 4 pickleball courts. Now I've got 4 and 4 on the site, kind of dividing it, the number of people down there.
Yeah.
No, that's a great rationale. That makes sense to me too.
Yeah, because like I said, Mary Murray Camp, they come in and use all 6 courts at once. That's now granted that's one day a week for a few hours, but so this will, that would alter their program a little bit when they come in. That should probably expand, bring one group in early and another later. But that was originally my thought, was 4 and 4 kind of was an equal split with the number of courts.
Gotcha. Just a quick follow-up on that. Yeah, so Charlie, in my mind, sometimes the instinct is the best science. You're there, you're involved, you understand what's going on. I don't necessarily suggesting we need a white paper, and at this point I would really retract the request, because you've articulated to me a really common sense approach to what's going on. And again, you're steeped in the day-to-day activities down there. Jill, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, just one more comment about, we have the new tennis courts at the high school, and those were made available this summer, but those cannot be retrofitted to be pickle, so.
No.
I feel like we have added public courts. It takes people a little while to understand how to, where they are and what they are, like, especially for seasonal residents, it'll take them a while to get to speed to know about them. But, the pickle is where the interest is, so the more we can add to that, the better, so.
Okay.
Well done, Charlie.
Thanks, guys. We're gonna go on now to the new playground facility at Nobody Fields. I just want to note, we've got, including this one, 5 requests. And it is 2 o'clock, so we'd like to wrap up within the next 21 and a half minutes.
All right, so pretty quickly, this is just, I look at it as a need, there's not much to do if you're a family who's at the Nobody Fields with one child playing, soccer. There's nothing there for other kids to do. So the thought was to add in a playground that would be fenced in. So if you're there, as a family and you've got one child that's playing soccer and another child, instead of kind of running around aimlessly on the sidelines, there'd be something to do. And I think, more playgrounds, more things for kids on the island is always a good thing.
Okay. Christie?
Charlie, your description right there warrants at least a medium priority.
Okay.
just so you know.
Yeah. Anyone else? So, Charlie, the idea of the medium, high and low is high is it's required to preserve a necessary function. Recommended is to prevent degradation. And low is it's an elective. Now, those can be counterbalanced by, comments in the introduction and the summary and so on and so forth. But that's how we rank them. Obviously, imminent threat. So for instance, Tom Nevers, the cleanup that would fall into place. A legal requirement has the greatest weight. And then phase funding and placeholder are phase funding is the next one for having some type of a authority position for a request. So we kind of look at all those factors when we put together our final recommendation, just so you're aware. There's no quiz on that. Christie?
Charlie, do you perceive this will be a cookie cutter? I don't use that in a bad way, but a cookie cutter of the old South playground, or will this be something a little bit different?
Somewhat but different. The hope is to have the same sort of ADA, floor, rubberized ground flooring, but then with different structures. That seems to be a little more educational minded. This will be a little bit more play, climb, entertain, something where you can let the kids go free and run around.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Charlie, that gateway arch, I'm thinking maybe a hawthorn yellow as opposed to the vibrant orange.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually a pretty interesting thing. I'll see if I can find the spec sheet on it. I'm happy to send it to you guys if you're interested, but it's interactive.
Well, that's actually where I was going to go with it. Can you tell us anything about that? I know I just said we don't have limited time, but
it's a pretty interesting item, and it can be updated with the web and everything else. And there's a lot of interactive games where they're trying to take when they were telling me about it, kind of trying to take the new age of kids and video games and devices and connect it to the outdoor. So it's a digital game that requires you to move around, and then basically the arch kind of senses where you are underneath it. Whether you can ask you math questions or different questions and tell you to run to certain places to do the answers. It's a pretty interesting device.
Very interesting. That's kind of cool. We're going to jump. Appreciate that information. We're going to jump down to the Tom Nevers playground.
Sure. So that's well, as my 5-year-old nephew described it, kind of weak. There used to be a structure out there, a play structure. Now it's really just there's a couple little climbing structures and some sets of swings. So we're looking to bring that back to something that's a little bit more attractive for kids to play. And there's a lot of families that ride their bikes out to Tom Nevers. There's a bathroom facility there, and so to kind of remake that as something a little bit more attractive to kids will be something great. And there we remove the sand as the play area and put down a 5R infill, which is like a specialized wood chip material, which does meet ADA accessibility, which the current playground is not as sand.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Yeah.
Jill?
Charlie, is there something going on out at Tom Nevers where you all are gonna bring the skating back?
I'm still waiting I was hoping to get that in, but I haven't gotten the quotes back.
Oh,
But
okay.
I met with a company to look at reconstructing the skating rink and bring that back with either probably pickleball courts lay down there, some sort of a tile system, because we are close to the erosion zone there. Something that is not that we could pick up and move if we had to, if all of a sudden one storm came through and wiped out 100 feet of coastline. So it'd be a sport court tile system that would be fit for roller hockey, pickleball, basketball, that sort of thing. And out there, and then we put the boards back around it, because it's a great place. I mean, I remember taking my little sisters there when they were learning to ride their bikes, because have them ride around inside, because they can't, you can turn around and look at the coast and not worry that they're heading down, Tom Nevers Road. So we're gonna try to bring that back to the best of our ability, but I don't have any numbers on that yet.
Okay, it's just nice to give everyone an idea that you're, you're layering out there and you've got some ideas in mind for it to really be done, not just
Yeah.
one little thing happening, but several
Yeah.
things.
We got some plans that I'm working on to start rehabilitating the softball fields out there to get those back into a better spec. And we got the lawn and everything dialed in out there this year, but I'd like to get like the stone dust field for this and the one softball removed and proper infill put in, and maybe get some dugouts built out there.
Yeah, you've got a lot of softball players, don't you?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's the co-ed adult league that plays out there 4 nights a week, and then there's a very big Dominican softball league that plays out there on Sundays, who actually represented Nantucket off island this year and won the championship for like Greater Boston Dominican Softball League.
So Charlie, that brings up a point. Well, two things. One, I'm going to back up to the surfacing. Just for clarity in our later review and discussion process, surfacing of the old rink is a separate request at some point, correct?
Yeah, if it comes in under, I'm hoping it comes under, underneath the capital line of, of 50,000 is something we can just try to get done. But I'll know more when I get those numbers in. If it comes in higher, you'll see me here for that next year.
And then the other thing is, I'm sure you're aware, but I think all of these requests so far under parks for sure relate back to environmental justice, and there's funding, grant money. I think that's an important component. If you guys, I didn't see it in any of the documentation. I would like to see some development of that in the project summaries. You've mentioned the constituents who, the people who use these resources, and these can be utilized by equally by everyone. And I think it's just something that it would be helpful, I think, to target in the appropriate wording. I don't know what the appropriate term and words are, but that environmental justice component. And we met with Jeff Carlson on that under a different umbrella, which was natural resources. But he was pretty well steeped in that area. So you may already know that, but I want to highlight it with respect to our process, and then that will filter out to Finance Committee and Select Board in our and the community and our report and recommendations. Yeah, I'm sorry, Barry.
That's okay. Just one other question I have for you is, are you guys doing grant proposals out to the Community Preservation Committee for some of this stuff?
We didn't have the information in time to do either of these playgrounds to CPC.
Right. The only reason I bring it up is that the open space recreation funding component of that is usually sadly underutilized.
And it is this year too.
Is it again? Yeah, I haven't looked at the new stats yet, but it's really something to consider that that is a good and valid funding source.
Yeah, I got a little bit of an earful from Linda. She and I had talked. I just, I was trying to put together all the stuff for the cemetery. Was going to CPC and I was trying to get numbers on this, and she called me up and said, "Okay, I see your cemetery stuff. Where's all the playground stuff?" And I just apologize that I didn't have time to get that all. I didn't have the numbers in time. But
I get it, and I'm just throwing that out to you as a potential funding source, not to look at as time marches on.
Yeah,
thanks.
Okay, great. Thanks. Good point, Barry. Let's see, we're going to jump down to Public Works, turf maintenance equipment replacement upgrade. In the interest of time, I think we'll go back to our original format, which was with the central fleet. Is that if anyone has a question, let's call them up front. There's 3 requests, and then we'll pose our questions, and otherwise we'll be able to move on. Turf maintenance equipment replacement upgrade. Anyone have comments, concerns, or questions on that?
No.
Cat 420 backhoe replacement and the Kubota tractor replacement.
I guess just real quick, with all of these replacements, is there any, like residual or salvage value to what's being replaced, or is it just decommissioned and kind of shipped off to its own resting place?
Some of the items, like the cat backhoe will be traded in.
Okay, awesome.
Okay, Christie and then Barry.
Charlie, that cat backhoe replacement, is that just the backhoe attachment or is that the whole,
No, that's the whole machine.
the whole thing? So you get, so all brand new
What's that?
for a new, yeah, so it's just gonna be a new one, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, got it, thanks.
Okay, Barry?
Is there an opportunity to coordinate with other departments like the fire department and stuff who's got equipment that could be resold at a lower cost, but I'm just wondering if there's an advantage to one-stop shopping and a coordination effort between the various departments who have vehicles and fleet stuff that has got to be sold off, or something's got to happen to it, even on the public market as well. That kind of came up when we were talking with the fire department about certain things. So that sticks out of my mind a little bit, that there may be other opportunities.
Barry, I'm sorry, just a clarification, you're talking about on the decommissioning side or
On the decommissioning side of things,
Okay.
right, yeah.
So, Charlie, or whomever, Drew, if you want to, how do you guys approach decommissioning? I have an understanding of it, but say it in your own words.
Yeah, there's different ways to go about it. We do an annual surplus sale. But like Charlie mentioned, depending on what you're getting and where you're getting it, there's also opportunities to trade it in. So we'll certainly always do our best to try to maximize that, the value of what we're getting rid of.
Okay.
And the only question I have is on the turf maintenance equipment, replacements and upgrades. Can you put that into context with the heavy use of the fields? And in particular, it's ranked low. So in my mind, are we in a position where we need this equipment to prevent degradation? Or, where does it kind of fit in that spectrum?
Sure. So when I put this in, I kind of ranked it low because I wanted to get it into the works, but we're still currently under contract for the maintenance of the fields. So this is again the start towards building out and taking a lot of the stuff that we have contracted out back in house. So this piece in particular is it's kind of a Toro tractor, has a front end loader on it, 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel steer, meant to go over turf field, so it's lightweight, has a 3-point hitch, PTO attachment. It would kind of be the first piece of specialized turf equipment that we'd be looking to purchase as we look to take these contracts back in house. This would pull, a giant aerator, a slice seeder, a top dresser, other pieces of equipment that we would then acquire to maintain the fields. We'll pull the thought is that we'll get a 12-foot wide, basically mowing deck to pull behind it. So have one person cut the fields instead of having to have multiple people out there on smaller pieces of equipment.
Gotcha. So Charlie, just to follow up on that question, when are you targeting that transition to take effect and like overall and whole?
The hope is within the next few years. It all kind of depends on what we can bring in for staff.
Okay.
Ultimately, I wish I got, there are plenty of people I know in the landscape industry that I would love to call up and say, hey, come work for us. But, realistically, they have to they want to come to work for the town and come out of the private sector. So
Gotcha.
as we bring people in, then we find people who are, will come to work for us and that are qualified to kind of shift and focus on park stuff. We'll start to work, that way.
Okay.
This piece of equipment also has got like an 18-month lead time on it. So if we were ordered tomorrow, it would be about 18 months before we require it. So some of these things I'm trying to put in ahead of time in planning for 18 months. So by then, hopefully we have people here, either specialized to operate it, or we can take one person out of the operations crew and have them go, and mow the fields for us instead of having to pay someone to do it.
Right. Okay. No, that's helpful information, because where I was going to go with this is, to be helpful with the instructive side with you with respect to high, medium, low. So at this point, these in general are elective and or they would enhance, though are not required, so they'd be low. But if we were to lose the, for whatever reason, the transition to bringing this in-house happened within the net in FY 26, this would jump to a high because it would be required, and not only would it's required to preserve a necessary function. But you mentioned something that this concept of ordering in advance, obviously logistical acquisition timelines are important to keep in mind. I would just suggest that if there's something in here that you'd be concerned about, that would jump to a high, because on the transitioning to in-house, you need it. You need to get the order in FY 25 in order to have it when you're going to have the services provided in-house. Subject to our $50,000 minimum for capital request, you might want to consider breaking that out and presenting that, through proper channels. But I do want to point that out to you is if it comes down to, well, he doesn't need this 50 this year, but he needs, 51 in order to have equipment here. We won't have that information to help make that decision or recommendation rather. So if there is something that falls into those categories, you're aware of it, and we'll leave it in your good hands. Any other questions on these? Okay, guys. Well, hey, look, we appreciate your time. I appreciate, Charlie, you took great notes on all those things we'd asked for. And that's really going to be helpful, site plans and diagrams and whatnot. And I think the big item was, just to recap on it, was the facility and getting a breakdown of the uses of the different units, and if possible, updating the costs, the general cost for the different buildings. All that said, thanks again. We appreciate you coming in. We're going to wrap up the rest of our meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Annual report and recommendations, work group updates. I don't think there's anything there. I did want to comment, Rory values have been updated.
Okay,
So please feel free to get through those.
okay. Good to know.
If you want to do them in groups or however you want to do them, because we will within the next several weeks get to the point where it's going to become a requirement that they be turned in. So don't wait to do your homework.
Yeah.
But they in the database. everything's set.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I know you guys are looking forward to this. This is like pickleball.
Pulling all nighter the night
Well, I
before.
don't mind doing the ones for Parks and Rec, it's just other ones, I like to talk about them sometimes.
Okay, well, there's gonna
But
be,
yeah,
in the spirit, thanks, in the spirit of that, Joe's comment. Just because you complete your Rorys doesn't mean they can be revisited when we sit down to have our discussion about any of these requests that any member would like to discuss, which will be the step before we rank these for advancement or out years. And we assign any particular recommendation. So that's part 2 of this particular process before we get into segueing into the report. All right, so committee reports, anything from finance?
no, we won't meet again until right before town meeting, where we'll do some technical amendments, maybe on,
Okay,
like the town employee housing. Since we voted on that.
Yeah.
Then that should. give
yeah, and actually, we didn't do anything official on the supplemental for the special, but
Yeah.
just to make it official, we'll rely on you to convey that to the.
I
group.
told her that. Yeah.
Perfect. I figured you would.
I think we're all in support, so.
Yeah. Committee reports, that, planning NPDC, anything?
No,
Go to the order, self-reflection. Trending in the
I
right
have a
direction.
Question, and
Yeah.
this might be just, I didn't want to ask the guy, anyway. Has Land Bank ever given money to Parks and Rec for outdoor recreation? Do they ever? Like to the town, if the town already has a recreation project on land, have they ever donated money to help or donated
than-
landscaping or something?
I don't know.
Other than transfers with the town, I don't think they would set that precedent,
I don't
Yeah.
even think it's in the organizational documents.
Yeah,
to be
They
honest.
can do that,
a cash transfer.
they could.
but they
They
can't do
could,
it.
but it's not in their document.
Yeah, but there's nothing that says they can't do it.
I'd be 90% guessing I'd say no. Probably not.
Yeah, and I would suggest that's it's a great question. It's a good follow-up question, to Sue. And
Yes.
finance
Yeah.
can tell us what.
Yeah,
Tell
I didn't
you-
know if they'd ever said,
Yeah.
oh, we gave you.
I was gonna say, I'm not aware of it ever happening. Where they fall out on it for their own purposes is a separate discussion, but.
Yeah.
Historically, to date, I think Sue would be able to get that from Brian.
Yeah, I would think so.
Any other comments? So date of next meeting will be Thursday, November 2nd at 1 PM. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Jill. Oh, actually, we've got no one online. All in favor, say aye.
I.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Sorry, I was late.
No, it's good.
Today's.
How do I end the meeting?
I'll look up the facility.
Footnotes on the Rory request,
Yeah, for
like
today.
comments? I don't believe so.
Nothing.
Oh, that.